The chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, Olaniyi Yusuf, joins us now to expatiate on day 2. Good to see you and thanks for your time. A tiring session that is. Let's start off from how you ended in that report. Keep working and keep building. Now let's start by talking about what we're building and how sustainable these will be. Quite different from previous NESG. So how can we make these more than just a report at the end of this session?
Right. Thank you. So the thing about the work of a think tank is that you've got to be ready for moment of opportunities, right? And so that means, irrespective of the situation, you must continue to think of ideas, think of solutions, and think of ways you could make a few things that can lead to significant impact. And when the moment then occurs, like they say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Mm-hmm. And when the moment occurs, you have the blueprint ready, you have a willing reformer, then you can implement. And in our experience, we believe beyond policy, we've got to be building institutions. And one of the institutions will be working with the legislature to enact bills that can become acts of law. And that then makes it a bit more permanent, and you can avoid policy flip-flops. And that's where we have working with the states, with the Governors Forum and the National Assembly. We formed the National Center for Legislative Reforms and Economic Development, focused on working through legislation to promote a more modern, open, and competitive economy for the country.
Well, there are people who believe, look, laws, Nigeria is not lacking in great laws. The political will to implement those laws seems to be where the real challenge is. Now, let me quote a point that you made at the event, at the summit. Economy at risk of stagnation and distress, NESG, unquote. So, beyond raising this alarm, any recommendations as to how Nigeria can come back from the precipice? Yeah, indeed.
So in my speech, I also gave a few ideas of what we'd like to see being done by the government. First is around macroeconomic stability, right? Rising inflation, volatility in the FX market. FX is instrumental to more than 60% of our economy, right? And that's, so we would like to see some stability in that. Second would be around security, especially security that will protect our crude oil, our solid minerals, such that we can then produce more, export more, and that will bring in more FX that can turn to a positive balance of payment, and then government have more revenue. Third will be around our national assets. We have a lot of assets that are not productive, that are not fully utilized. And we've said those assets needs to be made more functional. And you can do that by privatizing them, you sell, you commercialize. What we need to do to infuse more serious management know-how, private capital, private expertise to get those assets working. That's something we also said must be accelerated. Investment in human capital. Human capital is about health, also about education and nutrition. So we've got to protect the Nigerian child. The first 1,000 days determines a lot about the cognition of a child. And so if that child is malnourished, or if the mother is malnourished in the first 2 years, it's a lost cause. And so the Nigeria, at the summit to the experts and advisor, we need to focus on food security, on nutrition, in addition to health and education, to then ensure that our children really can become the workforce of tomorrow and the consumers of tomorrow.
So let's talk about, there was a big prediction just before the NESG, the summit proper, sometime around August, where it says that Nigeria's economy is likely to grow stronger for the rest of 2023. Now the summit is on. I'm quite sure you've started compiling some of those notes that will ultimately become that big report that everyone will latch onto. What are those things that may give some sense of hope to everyday Nigerian that you may have seen?
Right. So, the speech of the president yesterday, I think, gave all of us significant hope that the government understands the issues. They also understand the challenges, and they do have ideas of how to solve it. Now, of course, we must walk our talk. Yeah. And so we need to see those ideas being implemented. But I think we all left yesterday with a sense of hope. I mean, so from the business concern, you are concerned about security, you are concerned about FX, and the president had assured that the forward, about 6 billion of forward, will be cleared, that all prior commitments and contracts will be honored, right? And the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy has assured of an inflow of about $10 billion in a matter of weeks, not months, quote and unquote. And so if we can inflow $10 billion into the economy, that will help to stabilize the pressure on the foreign exchange market. If we continue to honor our contracts, if we continue to create the right open environment that will then assure private investors that yes, you can bring in your money, and when you need to repatriate, you also be able to repatriate your money. And that was one of the assurances that we got yesterday from the central bank governor, that they are working on a new set of rules that will ensure that investors that bring in money, when they want to repatriate, they can repatriate their money. And so when you do that, if the $10 billion comes in a matter of weeks, that I think will make people to be a bit more confident.
Sorry, because and Yusuf, you know, it also goes beyond the investor that is coming from outside Nigeria. You know, small businesses here, we've seen young Nigerians in tech industry got to a point you just even couldn't update your app because your bank would restrict you for as low as $10 to get this app running. So now that the government is, you know, opening up that space again, how much of you know, vibrancy, some kind of you know, flourishing business are we likely to see by our own young, vibrant Nigerian?
Right. So we had a session with the Honorable Minister for Digital Economy this afternoon, actually two sessions this afternoon. And some of the things that he said assures us of the environment that will allow our tech ecosystem to blossom, right? With minimal government support, $5 billion of investment came into the continent last year. 20% of that came into Nigeria, right? And that tells us of the potential, right? And so a few things that the government is doing, first is in terms of talent and skills building, so that you can have coders, programmers that can help this company. That's one. Second is the Minister for Finance yesterday unveiled a scheme that is being planned where fintechs will be allowed to really support the transfer of FX into the market. So as opposed to them being penalized in the past. And so diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora who really want to transfer money cannot do that through these fintechs. And what that would do is really open up the supply. And when you have more supply coming in, hopefully prices can then stabilize. And so I think the period when we stigmatize the Nigerian youth who use a laptop as Yahoo, I think that period is going with the current minister that we have in place who really understands the nature of the tech ecosystem.
Well, I'll say hallelujah to that. You talked about, you know, what the president assured Nigerians of, you know, clearing the backlog of Forex. Now, this promise, against the backdrop of the, you know, dwindling fortunes of the Naira. As of today, I mean, we've even lost count, around 1,300 and still, you know, losing a lot of ground. Does the NESG have any kind of ideas, sustainable ideas that can help shore up the Naira so that all of these objectives, at least to a large extent, can actually, you know, meet the target? Yeah,
so I mean, the price of the Naira, it's a function of supply and demand, and also a transparent price discovery mechanism, right? Unlike the Honorable Minister for Finance said yesterday, we can't allow those who buy $1,000 to be the one determining the exchange rate. And so if the right price discovery mechanism is put in place, then the next stage is really how do you increase the supply of FX and how do you reduce the demand for FX? So how do you make more in Nigeria? How do we consume more of what we make? And that reduces the demand somewhat. Then how do you boost supply? Supply boosting will come from your crude oil, our exports. Today, crude oil and gas is like 95% of FX exports.
Right.
So we've got to do more of cocoa, we've got to do more of groundnut, we've got to do more of services, exporting technology, exporting music. And so if we open up and do more exports, then we could have more FX coming in. But of course, also need to be able to do the crude oil and increase supply so that you can get also immediate inflow.
We'll have to leave it there. Olaniyi Yusuf is Chairman, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.